In today's Leeds news, Dan James to Fulham on a permanent deal. Brendan Rodgers on permanent list for Leeds. Ilias Akhomach deal off. Radrizzani may stay at Leeds. And Sam Allardyce is the new Leeds United head coach. Morning, folks, or afternoon, or whatever it is. How are you doing? How's everyone today? It's a bizarre one. I'm going to just say that before we get into the news. The news that Sam Allardyce has been confirmed as the Leeds United head coach for the remainder of the season. It's an interesting move. We'll get into it in more detail, but we'll crack on with the news anyway. And we've got our one a week. So if you like the channel, if you want to help support the channel grow, you can do so by subscribing to the channel. There's buttons down here somewhere, or liking the video and sharing it out there, which helps the algorithm to push the video to more and more people. We are 43 or something like that away from 8,000 subscribers. So a massive thanks again to everyone who subscribed recently over the last couple of weeks. And let's crack on with the news. So we'll start off and let's talk about Dan James to Fulham permanently. James has been on loan at Fulham most of this season and hasn't really established himself as a starting player. He's played a couple of games from the start. He's scored a few goals for Fulham, but hasn't made himself a mainstay in Marco Silva's side. However, according to Football Insider, Dan James is in talks with Fulham, and Fulham are in talks with Leeds around making his deal at the club permanent going into next season. It's an interesting one. We'll get to it in more detail. He is a player that Sam Allardyce actually likes and tried to sign when he was at West Brom. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Leeds towards the back end of this season into next year, and if James is a player Leeds would keep in the Championship if they went into the Championship, or if, something should happen on a permanent basis. Does Dan James come back to Leeds and have a future at Leeds, depending on the style of play? We'll have to wait and see on that. That's that one. Moving on, let's talk about the permanent manager's job at Leeds. Allardyce is in the job until the end of the season, although there is a rumour that there is a potential permanent deal there should things go well. But on the permanent basis, according to several outlets, Leeds United have Brendan Rodgers on their list for permanent managers of Leeds United into next season. Leeds want to return to a situation with a manager with an overall plan and a culture to bring into a club, and they see Brendan Rodgers as the man to do that. Rodgers is a very good coach, has had some success and won some trophies. It didn't end particularly well for him at Leicester. Although there was lots of reasons for that in the first half of the season, injuries and not getting the players he necessarily wanted at the start of the season, and an aging squad. Didn't work out particularly well for him, but he did win an FA Cup there as well, and it should be stated. So there is a pedigree of winning trophies, I suppose, there. Interesting to see long term. I like Brendan Rodgers. I think he's a very good coach. He's done well at clubs that he's been at. Would be an interesting one to see on a permanent basis. Again, we'll see going forward. Moving on, let's talk about Ilias Akhomach. And according to what the Yorkshire Evening Post, the deal to sign the Barcelona winger is now officially off. They are taking a story from Spain in where, I have to check my notes on this one, where it's claimed from Dario Sport that the move is off due to Victor Orta's exit from Leeds. What it should be said, and to clarify this and put all the facts out there, is the deal for Akhomach looked like it was off as of 2 weeks ago. The player has been linked with Leeds multiple times over the last couple of months, with a deal being on the table for him for several months now. 2 weeks ago, the player himself stalled on the deal and wasn't convinced about moving to Leeds unless Leeds were a Premier Division club. Given the results that have happened since then, you can read into this to say the player has decided to go elsewhere. Arsenal are very interested in the player, as well as Manchester City. They would see him as a young up-and-coming player, not a player for now, where at Leeds he would have been brought in as a player to probably go in and challenge in the first team. He has got 3 first-team appearances for Barcelona this season as well. The deal is said to be off because of Orta's exit, but if we're being real about this deal was off quite a few weeks ago and didn't look like it was going to happen. He's been tippy-toeing around signing this contract for quite a while now, so that's the news that's out there. But it's important to have a bit more context on it than that. Moving on to one of the main 2 stories today, and we'll talk about Radrizzani may stay at Leeds. And Joe Wayneman over on the Just Joe show made this comment on our live stream the other week. And when he said it, it made perfect sense. And now it's been backed up by Phil Hay, who has said that he believes if Leeds get relegated, don't be surprised if you see Radrizzani stick around for at least one more season. They said the deal to buy the 49ers is still an option to buy, and there are 6 months remaining on that deal should they decide to buy. The fact that it's an option means Radrizzani does not have to sell. We've seen Leeds try and get out of deals before in the past, whether they're obligations or options to buy players, and it looks like they might be doing the same here as well. Radz doesn't have to sell Leeds if he doesn't want to, and to maximise his profits, he might want to take the parachute payments, drop into the Championship, and do what Burnley have done this year. This is what Phil Hay is saying, and then bounce back and then look to sell the club for its maximum output. The situation here is Radrizzani bought Leeds for I think in around 40 or 50 million pounds at the time. Even if the club does get relegated, it's still ranked well into the hundreds of millions. So he was still making a significant profit if he sells Leeds going into the Championship. But if he was to take the parachute payments, bump up the squad, rebuild it, and bring it back into the Premier League in a season like Burnley have done, he might stick around to do that. The issue with this is there's no guarantee you'll get out of the Championship a first crack at it. It's not that easy a league, although Burnley have done it. Other clubs that went down haven't. So it's not always that straightforward. It's about having the right manager, the right players, and Leeds will lose a lot of players should they go into the Championship. It would be interesting to see which players would stick around for the fight to get back up and bring Leeds back up. But for me personally, given what's happened with Leeds over the last 18 months, I think a full clean out of the club is needed from top to bottom. I think if we do go down, it needs to go to the 49ers or to another owner, and we need to rebuild from scratch here. There's too much stuff gone under the bridge over the last 18 months to be forgotten about, and there's too much stuff with this club. Don't forget, Leeds is still ranked in the bottom 4 fan engagement clubs in the entirety of the football pyramid in the UK, which is a dreadful place to be. I've had experiences that myself trying to talk to the club. They just don't want to talk back to you. So it's not a straightforward one. For me personally, if Leeds were to go down, I would rather see them clear out everything from top to bottom and start again and try a proper rebuild and do it the right way, because the way it's been handled over the last 18 months, there's no guarantee that's going to improve over the next 2 years. I hope it does. And what I will also say for Radrizzani is I will always be grateful for what he has done for Leeds United. I would always be grateful for him getting us back into the Premier League. And I will always be grateful for him for bringing Marcelo Bielsa in and giving us 3 years of a style of football that was really, really enjoyable to watch. So that, what's happened the last 18 months doesn't take that away. But I would like to see a new lease of life for the club at the end of this season, regardless of what happens. Let's move into the main story. And speaking of regardless of what happens, Sam Allardyce is officially the Leeds United head coach. Is a sentence I never thought I would say in 2023. But that is the case. He has been confirmed this morning. Some interesting things. TalkSport managed to get an exclusive interview with him, announcing it before Leeds announced it, which again, don't look great, do we? We really don't look like we got our house in order. But he has been announced on a deal until the end of the season. Sam will pick up a reported £500,000 salary in that period of time, with a £2.5 million bonus in place should he keep Leeds United in the Premier League, bringing a total remuneration package of £3 million to Sam for 4 games should he keep Leeds in the Premier League. His backroom team is starting to come together as well. Carl Robinson, former Oxford and MK Dons manager, has also been confirmed as his assistant and will join him, and has been pictured, as you can see here now on the screen, has been pictured with Sam this morning at Ellen Road. The club have released a statement which goes on to say the following. Leeds United can confirm that Javi Gracia will leave the club after 12 games in charge. Zigor Arnalde, Mikel Anita and Juan Sola, who joined alongside Gracia, will also leave the club. We thank Javi and his team for the efforts under the difficult circumstances. The remaining 4 games of the season will be overseen by experienced head coach Sam Allardyce. Allardyce has managed over 500 Premier League games in a managerial career stretching 29 years, and he brings a wealth of knowledge in fighting for survival, having guided a number of his previous clubs to safety. His first experience of top flight came with Bolton Wanderers, who he guided into Europe for the first time in the club's history. Following this, he went on to manage Newcastle United, Blackburn Rovers and West Ham United, earning promotions to the Premier League in his first seasons with the Hammers. Over the past decade, he has successfully helped Sunderland, Crystal Palace and Everton avoid relegation from the Premier League during short-term stints. Allardyce will be assisted by former NK Dons, Charlton Athletic and Oxford United manager Carl Robinson. His first game in charge of the Whites will be Saturday's Premier League trip away to Manchester City. It's an interesting statement for lots of reasons. It's very dismissive of Javi Gracia. I know he's only there for a short amount of time, but it's a throwaway comment. The deal, according to Tim Thornton at Sky Sports, so I usually don't say this, but given how Sky Sports have degraded their program from an actual news channel into just banter and Cockney FC. Tim Thornton saying that this deal could be made permanent at the end of the season is probably 100% his opinion, and not actual factual information. There's not a huge about that out there, but he's saying it's possible to happen as well. Rumours that Robbie Keane will also join up with the backroom team as well. Robbie knows Leeds pretty well from his time at Leeds and has bounced around a few clubs, being the assistant manager for Jonathan Woodgate during a failed spell at Middlesbrough, and also been part of a very short-lived Mick McCarthy backroom staff at Ireland as well. Robbie hasn't really established himself as a coach yet, and for a significant amount of time at any club, and will go into this with 4 games to try and prove himself and the backroom team can put something more in place there on a permanent basis going forward for Leeds. It's a massive day for Leeds in terms of this is it. I keep saying this on Twitter. I'll keep backing this up. I get it. I understand all of the reasons that we're doing this. I get it. It's a final swing of the dice. I throw the dice, a final swing of the bat. It's a Hail Mary pass. It's, why not? It's a why not? And I'm okay with that. And I get that. I understand all of those reasons. I just don't like how the club looks over the last 12 months. I think we've looked like a ragtag bunch thrown together at times. The decision making doesn't seem to make sense from a long or short term perspective. I just don't like how it makes Leeds look. I don't like how it makes Leeds look. However, I do wish Sam Allardyce all the best. 100% backing, as with every Leeds manager comes in, because I want us to be successful and I want us to get out of this trouble. I would like to see us remain in the Premier League and try and build next season. And that's all on Sam and Carl Robinson, Robbie Keane, and fingers crossed they can get a tune out of this team. Stop the goals coming in the back. Although I don't know if that's possible. It's a tough bunch. It's a tough couple of games coming up. Man City, you can probably write that one off. If he does manage to get anything out of that game, that's the start of the miracle, isn't it? But Newcastle, West Ham and Spurs will be the 3 games that he's looking to try and pick up 3 points from. Or if he can nick a win against West Ham or Spurs and maybe nick a point off Newcastle at home, maybe. I'll actually get to see Leeds in the Premier League this season. I'll be going over to the Newcastle game. But it's going to be tough. Best of luck, Sam. And that's going to be it for me today, folks. I will see you all tomorrow. For more fallout of what's happening here, more information from the club and more Leeds news heading into what's going to be an interesting couple of weeks ahead for Leeds. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.